Hi guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the FPL Double Up podcast, ready for game weeks 21 and 22. We're going to cover off both game weeks because they're so close together with a Saturday deadline followed by another Tuesday deadline. This week there's no John, as you can hear. This is FPL Heisenberg, Wes here, doing the intro, which is a new thing for myself here. So I'm winging it, don't really know what I'm doing. I need my host John back, but we'll be okay because we've got a very special guest today. We've got Rich. Rich, do you want to give yourself a little introduction?
Sure, cheers, Wes. Well, first off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I can do some justice to the pod. I haven't quite got a kind face like John, but I'll give it a go. So I write now for Fantasy Football Hub as using fantasy Premier League points as a metric. It aids me with my decision making when I'm looking at transfers. Part of the Wolf Pack as well. Oi oi to the boys, if any of them are listening. I've been playing fantasy football FPL since it was Budweiser fantasy football, I think, back in the day. Just love playing it, love talking about it.
Sweet, yeah. So yeah, you're part of Fantasy Football Hub, which is good. As am I, as is John as well. So yeah, pleasure to have you on. I know you've been listening over the last few weeks. We chat on WhatsApp quite a lot, so yeah, it's a pleasure to get you on. And yeah, let's see how we get on. And just before we get into the meet of the pod, shout out for our partners, Fanslide. Fanslide, for those who don't know, obviously we say about every week, but for new listeners, it's the first in-play fantasy football game, completely complimentary with FPL, so you can use all your research and then apply it to a solitary game. And also it's free to play, free to download, 100% free, but there's cash prizes up for grabs, so there's nothing to lose, and you can win yourself a few quid as well. And the best way to play it is to get your friends involved and have that banter going on the WhatsApp, because yeah, there's nothing better than beating your mates, even if there's no money involved. So yeah, that's how I like to play it. So right, let's get cracking then, Rich. So with yourself, like you said, you've been playing FPL for 10 odd years now, and probably like me, I guess. Like I remember playing fantasy football when I was kind of 14, 15, maybe even younger actually. In my local area, someone actually ran a league because there was no sort of internet leagues back then. So yeah, I guess you've been playing for many years. I know that you obviously, huge on your FPL. You do create loads of content. So yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. And in terms of your season, how's it going so far?
It's been a bit of a shocker. I think I'm finally turning it around now. I had a really good game week one. I was ranked 84k game week one, and then I was, I think, 2 million, rounded in between 1.5 and 2 million for all the way up to 17. Played my free hit in 17 and got that down to, I think it was about, 1.4 million. So that was quite good because the chip gained me 30 points on if I hadn't played it. So I was pleased with how that went. And then I played Bench Boost week just gone. Took a -8 into that one to bring in Kevin De Bruyne, John Stones. And then I got rid of Harry Kane for Mikel Antonio. So on the whole, that paid off handsomely. Just unfortunate that De Bruyne is injured now. But going into this week, I'm ranked 988k, which is nowhere near where I want to be, but it's a marked improvement on where I was a couple of weeks ago.
It's a big improvement when you've had a slow start or a bad start and you just can't get out of a rut. This is going to kind of lead me on to, we'll get going with the questions soon, but this is going to kind of lead into one that, so we've got a question regarding, what you do if you are having a bad season. And I think you are a good example of, the first half of your season was almost languishing, and now you've jumped, am I right in saying, around 1 million places?
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks, it was just under 1 million places, which is massive.
In 2 weeks, that's huge.
Yeah, hopefully I can kick on. I'm not really one for looking at my rank halfway through a game week, but I'm on 45 points this week already because of Cancelo.
That's a good start.
And Gundogan. So yeah, I've made a good start this week, and hopefully I can get another hefty green arrow and keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're just so everyone's aware, we're recording this Wednesday afternoon. So we've had the games last night, but that's it. We've had obviously the Man City game, Arsenal game, etc. So yeah, I think a lot of people will be listening in, and I think it's been a really big start for some, but I guess you could be on the opposite end of it. You know, the likes of Soychek, Gundogan, Cancelo, Rafinha, Saka. They've all had big scores. Even Lacazette. You know, some people have got them. So there's some big scores out there already with only or maybe even less than half the game week gone. But yeah, like you said, it's not really worth checking rank halfway through a game week, I should say. But it is good to get off to a nice start, and yeah, your team seems to be in good shape now, and you're kicking on. And we'll touch on our teams a bit later on, and I'll bring John's up as well, just to bring everyone up to speed with how John's doing, because obviously we've got a little side bet going ourselves. But yeah, let's get cracking with the questions. So the first one, whilst I get them up, so this is kind of in two parts. I'll actually start at the end of this, because this is from FPL Cantona, and it's kind of what we've been talking about. So what advice, and I'll let you take this one, Rich, because
Okay.
I've had a decent run of green arrows from like week 6 to 16. Then I've had a bit of a blip just now with messing up with bench boost, etc. And now this week it looks like I'm maybe back on track, but you've had a slump for a longer time than that. So what advice do you have for managers in a slump who have made lots of mistakes over recent weeks, asking for a friend? I think that was sarcastic, obviously.
I would just say trust in the decisions that you're making. You're probably making good decisions, but there's so much variance this season. Speaking from personal experience, even going back through some of the weeks that I've had poor weeks, at the time I felt it was a good decision. I mean, on my wild card, I looked at how Man City were playing, and so I got triple City in. I think it was Sterling, Foden, and
What
maybe in De Bruyne, like all
what
three
week
of
was
them.
that?
That was like game week 3. So off the back of their first game, where they played really well against Wolves and looked great, I thought, yep, they've picked it where they left off, so I'm going to go back in on triple City. I also saw that Wolves had tasty fixtures coming up, so I went with triple Wolves as well.
Mm.
The likes of Saiss and Jimenez. But ultimately, now I can look back and say, well, it didn't work out because Wolves, I think in the first game after that, lost 4-0 to West Ham. But at the time, I felt it was a good decision based on the information I had. So
Yeah,
I just say
and
keep. You guys, all right, go on, Wes.
no, I was just going to jump in and say you was probably making those decisions based off the previous season, where Wolves have been good for until this season. They're going through a bit of a transition, aren't they? But until this season, so game week 3 time, you kind of still got the previous season in your mind.
Yeah.
So you brought in players like Jimenez, who reliable players. I think I had him early doors in the season. Roman Saiss again looked like a good option, goal scoring threat, relatively cheap, playing in what is traditionally a good defensive side. But then things like Saiss lost his place. The triple City for yourself didn't work because City at that point stopped scoring goals, didn't they? I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'd have lost out there. Did you have triple? Was it triple City midfielders?
I think, yeah, I'm trying to go back. I don't think I had, because I think at the time, I'm not sure if at the time they'd signed Diaz. So at the time, I think I went all in on their attack. I think I
Yeah,
went. It was either Sterling, Foden, De Bruyne, but I can't remember. But I suppose the
yeah,
one learning I take now is I wildcarded too early. But
possibly.
all I can say to somebody that's going through a rough patch is just keep making good decisions based on the intel you've got at the time, and it'll even
Yeah,
itself out.
yeah, and I'll jump in and just add a little bit onto that. Like I say, sometimes you will make mistakes over the course of the season. I remember seasons where I've ranked really well, like in the top 1K. I've still made plenty of mistakes over those seasons, and at the times, like you say, sometimes you miss out on a big score, not because of a bad mistake, just because of the way the dice rolls or whatever. But what I would say is don't let a mistake or bad decision or bad luck affect the way you play. So obviously not this week I'm doing fine. The week before I had a really bad week on my what was supposed to be a bench boost, so that was really wounding for me in terms of I didn't activate my bench boost. My own fault, of course. And but I thought at the start of the week, right, my front 11 is still good. Most of them have got doubles, etc., etc. And then they all had a shocking week compared to the average and everyone else. And all the first sort of instinct that happens at that point is, my team's shit. I need to make loads of changes. So I started drafting at -4s for get Harry Kane in straight away for Vardy and do this, do that. But what I actually did this week, if I had done that, I would have benched Soychek for his whatever he got 15 pointer, and I'd have taken a -4, so that would have meant Harry Kane hasn't played yet, but he'd have had to get 19 points against Liverpool just to match that. So, and obviously maybe that example is not great because Souček getting a 15-pointer is a bit lucky / rare. But the overall point I'm trying to make is not to sort of don't try and fix a bad game week score or bad previous decision or whatever it is with making more bad decisions by like chasing your losses. You've got to just calm down, play a normal game, and keep making those right decisions, and you will climb the ranks. But we'll leave that question there now because you answered it really well, and I'm just blabbing on now. But we'll go back to his. So FPL Canton, I started this off with another question: is it too late to jump on the Gundogan train? And it looks like he's also had Foden and didn't want to take a hit. But to try and make it a more general point, I'll let you jump in on this as well, Rich. But I'll start off with this one. In terms of, it's definitely not too late to get on the Gundogan train because Man City will have a double game week in game week 26. There's also talk about them having a double game week in 24 and 27. I think I'm not in. Don't quote me on that, but I know that they've got games to be rearranged and they could be soon. So my point there is Gundogan's in top form. His finishing's excellent at the minute, and he's getting into positions where, he's almost playing like the centre forward sometimes. I watched the game against West Brom last night, and just in really good positions. And then when he gets the ball, he's actually got that composure, that ability to just take his time and just finish. So he's a really good asset. He's only 5.7 mil. He's on penalties, we think, with De Bruyne out, and then like Sterling missing and no Aguero at the minute. So it's definitely not too late to get on him. What I would say about Foden is, though, Foden is in good form overall in the FA Cup and in the league as well now. He did get Gundogan and Foden both came off, I think, around the 50th minute last night. So they're both kind of being saved for the next Premier League game, you'd imagine. Not that we can, fully predict Pep, but you'd imagine that those both start now. So for those out there who have Foden, who are considering switching to Gundogan, I'd probably stick in that situation to Foden, or I'd get both. I wouldn't be transferring out Foden right now because there's every chance that Foden has a big week this week. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that general topic, Rich?
Echo what you say. I was in a similar situation myself in that when I free hitted in 18, I put Gundo in.
Same.
He looked so good, and I was saying to a friend that I've got a bet on with, because he was like, "Oh, the Gundogan pick's a bit odd," and he basically trapped me completely because I went into detail about his heat maps and his average position and how far he was getting forward and all the shots he was taking. And then when it came to the week after, I went for De Bruyne over Gundogan in my transfers for the KDB fear, and then Gundogan goes and gets 18 points, and lo and behold, the guy that I've got a bet on with put Gundogan in. So I've put him in this week. It's not too late to get on that train. They've got decent fixtures. He's in good form. I wouldn't overthink it.
Yeah, never help your real life mates with stuff like that. When my mates try and get some information out of me, I've usually been very coy over the years, but now not so much. Now they sort of are aware of my my Twitter and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think we've covered that. We all know what a good asset Gundogan is now. Forget the past because he's playing in a different position. He's playing with confidence, and it's a completely different role. And like you say, he's on penalties, he's cheap. Yeah, don't overthink it. Get him in for me if you can. But it's a difficult one as well. I guess this isn't really a question, but it's a topic that's on my mind. Last week there's a lot of talk of triple City defence, and it's still a viable option. But the reason why I won't do it and why I don't like it, and why I might not even double up on their defence, is because I always think of a Man City team of getting back to how they were playing last night, of putting 3, 4, 5 against teams. So I don't know if I want to bring in, maybe I'd want to bring in a Sterling or something like that to go along. I've got Gundogan and Cancelo, for example, and it makes complete sense to get someone like Diaz or John Stones. I get that, but yeah, I've still got my door open to get that third Man City slot of either. I've got plenty in the bank, so I could get Sterling in midfield, I could get Foden, I could get Mahrez. Not that I like Mahrez as an option at all, actually, because he's rotated, but I think you get what I'm trying to say there. Some of the questions, again, whilst we're on the Gundogan topic, Lynn _FPL, big character in the FPL community on Twitter, asks, is Gundogan a viable captain against Sheffield United? I never ever thought I would ever consider that, but there you go. Strange season indeed. Yeah, and John John Nellis has actually replied to that saying on Twitter, if I die in the next few days, it's where I'm at anyway, because he's already saved Gundogan as his captain. And I've done the same, actually. Gundogan is currently set as my captain. Cancelo is tempting me. So I guess we can elaborate this into a bit of a captaincy chat, Rich, about who we're looking at for captaincy for the next 2 game weeks. And we'll also speak about Gundogan captain's options. So yeah, what are you thinking about captaincy, mate?
So the thing with Sheffield United for me is that they don't concede as many chances or shots as
Mm.
West Brom. So my thoughts were, yeah, so a Cancelo would a Cancelo or Stones, if I'm worried about Cancelo being rotated, might be the safer play in for me, just because I'm not sure if City will be able to do what they've done to West Brom to Sheffield United. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think City are the form team. They've got the bit between their teeth. They are top of the league now. They are miles ahead of Liverpool. And although they've got United sort of breathing down their neck, they're by far the best team in the league. So I don't think I don't think it's a bad decision to captain any City asset at the moment.
yeah. And on that subject, in terms of their defensive stats, Man City, we all know that they've only conceded, I haven't got the stats to hand, but barely any goals in the last 12 games. So they've got an incredible amount of clean sheets, especially when they're playing their full strength team in terms of Stones and Diaz at centre back. They conceded in the cup to Cheltenham, but that was a much changed team. So if you do captain, and Sheffield United have scored the least goals in the league, I believe. And them and Burnley are right down there in terms of goals scored. So if you did captain the likes of Cancelo or Stones, there's a good chance of a clean sheet there straight away. So it's a nice little. And then if they do get an attacking return on top, you could be laughing there. And especially someone like Cancelo, so attacking. He finally actually fulfilled his attacking potential last night with a nice assist for Gundogan, a really nice goal, left-footed top corner. It seemed like it was offside, didn't it? But what I'm trying to get at, and I think he had a couple more shots later on, and there was one chance as well in open play. I think Gundogan slipped him through, and I thought he was going to shoot, but then he messed it up a little bit. But he's getting into those positions, and my point I'm trying to make is against Sheffield United, there's got to be a really strong chance of a clean sheet there. So there's 6 points for your Man City defender, plus that potential for attacking returns. So making a defender captain is something I rarely do. I did it last season for Trent away at Watford, didn't work out. But equally, Salah also blanked that game, who was my other option. But yeah, I'd happily captain Cancelo, and I would happily captain Gundogan. I know what you're saying about them conceding chances, and they won't do what they did to West Brom, and I do agree with that. I don't think they were 5-0 Sheffield United, but I do see Gundogan having a strong chance of getting a goal. Gundogan's pretty good for bonus points, and like we said, he's on penalties now as well, so an even greater chance of getting a double-digit return there. So he's still definitely a viable captaincy option, especially when Fernandes is away at Arsenal. Arsenal are much improved at the minute. Fernandes is awesome away from home though, and then Salah's away at West Ham. West Ham are flying at the minute. And who else is there? So about the big hitters, Spurs have got.
Is it Brighton?
Yeah, Brighton away, I think. Yeah. So yeah, Kane and Son are definitely still options for that one. But again, Brighton aren't a team who actually concede a lot of chances either. Although they do, they do always seem to be fairly leaky at the back. So there's some decent options out there this week. But because Salah and Fernandes don't have particularly good games, and there's no De Bruyne to captain from City, I think Gundogan's are definitely it's not a punt to captain Gundogan this week, and I would say it's not even a punt to captain a defender from City. And like you said earlier, they're all good options. If we just look forward, like we said, we're going to cover off game weeks 21 and 22 in this pod. So my captain, or who I think is going to be the best captain for game week 22, it does depend on obviously form, because Liverpool have still got to play this game week and obviously the following game week. But in week 22, Liverpool are at home to Brighton. And if they have returned to some sort of better form, Salah's definitely an option there. And Man City are away at Burnley. Again, it's kind of one of those where, are Man City going to destroy them like they did to West Brom? Almost certainly not. But I guess you've still got your City assets to captain in that game, because it is still Burnley. And what am I trying to say here? And Man City are in amazing form. I don't know who you're thinking about. I don't know if you've even thought that. Full disclosure, I don't think weeks in advance for captains, because I like to judge it based on recent form, who's had a little rest here and there or whatever. So I don't like to commit to captains too early doors, but it's nice to have a little chat about it.
Yeah, I was going to say Salah looks very good against Man United in the cup. Despite
Yeah,
Liverpool going out, it was a much improved performance. So I'm going to have a keen eye on the Tottenham game tomorrow night. Burnley v
yeah,
Villa
same.
will be an interesting one for me because I think Burnley and Villa are quite high up in recent weeks for chances and shots conceded. So if Burnley are still pretty leaky and and Villa can do that to them, then yeah, it might give me more confidence to put
The
it on
thing,
somebody like Gundogan.
yeah, the thing about Burnley is I feel like because they conceded a fair amount of shots against Liverpool as well, and I think I saw something on Twitter which was like um, that Burnley are kind of masters at getting their opposition to shoot
Like
when
low
there's
quality
low
shots.
chance, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
low quality shots of XG, which is why Pope picks up. He's a good goalkeeper, of course, and makes good saves, but he also makes a lot of easy saves
Hmm.
because their defense, I guess, they are so organised in such a way that yeah, it restricts players to sort of longer range shots or yeah, like you said, low quality shots. So yeah, but it definitely wouldn't put me off making a Man City asset my captain. But yeah, let's move back to some of the other questions. Um, what is the optimal forward line? So this is from at Vardy Boys. What is the optimal forward line? Is there a case for going with three budget options up top over Kane?
I've got three budget options. I've got Bamford, Antonio, and Watkins. But I am looking at changing two of those potentially.
Really?
But Bamford initially when I got Bamford, he was a volume play on the fact that he got plenty of opportunity, and
Yeah,
so if he was to blank week to week, I could kind of take it on the chin because I knew that he was getting plenty of chances. And
yeah,
we've
yeah.
seen that he can finish well in certain games, but those have dried up. I think in the last 4 weeks, I think he's only had like 10 shots or something like that. So he's on the chopping block.
Yeah,
And Kane is probably one of those that I want to look at bringing in.
I'm just going to jump in
Just
on. Sorry,
Yeah, go
mate, to
for it.
interrupt. I just wanted to jump in on Bamford before you moved on because, like you say, I think I saw on Twitter earlier today that game weeks 1 to 15, Leeds, the metrics for Leeds as a team, getting shots away and XG and shots on target, shots in the box, all that stuff was much higher than it has been from game week 16 to 20. So the last 5 game weeks are they're lagging behind in that respect, and they have had some okay fixtures in there. Newcastle last night, that's a good fixture. Um, So yeah, I do agree on Bamford. I think I'm still carrying Vardy myself, so I'll probably will carry Bamford and hope. My hope is Leeds return to the leads of the first 15 game weeks rather than the last 5. But yeah, he's definitely on the chopping block. If so let's say for example, if I was wildcarding, my front three would possibly be, and it wouldn't be necessarily budget one. It would possibly be Kane, maybe Calvert-Lewin, depending on how he plays tonight. Because I'm a big believer in Calvert-Lewin when he has Richarlison, James Rodriguez, and Luka Dean all fit, and they are now. There's a stage when none of them were playing, or they was coming back and kept getting injured or getting suspended, and those three really affect the way Everton play. And Calvert-Lewin, when he gets a chance, he scores them, but he just wasn't getting them. So yeah, I've got a keen eye on Calvert-Lewin. Kane is Kane. I really love him. I haven't had him for. He's one of my favourite players in the whole league, as in football players. He's a player I just do want to have, but haven't. I didn't want to take a -4 for him at home to Liverpool, like I said, and I did want to play Soychek. But back to the budget strikers, and I'll let you finish your point in a second. I do think there is your front three is pretty good. I think you have got Watkins, Bamford, and Antonio. Antonio looks great. Last night he was really unlucky in terms of I used a you might disagree. It's bad luck, maybe it's bad finishing, but I'll call it unlucky. He hit the post twice. And there was a save from the keeper that was a really good save from like a shot from like the 6-yard box line. And he picked him an assist as well last night, so he could have easily come away with a bit of a haul there. And Watkins is a player I do really like. He kind of looks good in all the stats, but he needs to actually start. Like you've been frustrated by him. I know that you've had him for a fair few weeks. But I do think, yeah, there's definitely an option of going for those budget strikers. Don't be afraid to sit there with loads of money in the bank. Don't spend the money for the sake of it on expensive players. But yeah, I think my front three of choice would be sort of Antonio, DCL, Kane. And yeah, sorry, I interrupted earlier, just made a small point and I just waffled on.
No, it's all right. I was going to say the point you've made about DCL is the exact point I made. I was on the Wolfpack podcast on the weekend, and
Mm.
when Everton are fully fit and they've got Dino, Richarlison, etc., and James, of course, James. Yeah, they've looked really really good. So Leicester's a bit of an eye test for me,
Yeah,
just to see if like how they can produce and if they can get back to where they were. And if so, then I think I'd like to bring him in, but that might have to be at the expense of Watkins. Despite
yeah,
the
but
fact that I was just going to say, but despite the fact they've got games in hand, but I kind of feel like the short term play would be to get DCL and then go back to Watkins when the doubles are
yeah,
announced.
and DCL's almost in that budget category anyway. He's only, I think he's fell to maybe 7.7, 7.6 ish.
Yeah,
So there's
that's
maybe
right.
only a million more than some of those guys we've mentioned anyway. And with a lot of people like myself having that money in the bank from having Gundogan as opposed to a traditional 10 million, 11 million pound midfielder, there's a lot of money flying around for most people. So upgrading from the likes of a Watkins to a Calvert-Lewin is really easy at the minute for most. So that could be a good shout. I feel like I was going to say something else, but yeah, don't worry. I think we've kind of covered that off there. Oh, that was the other thing. So yeah, Calvert-Lewin has a potential for a double game week, which will include a fixture. One of the fixtures will be Man City, so they're so good at the back. Can he nick a goal against them? Maybe. If Everton are flying, maybe he can. But a double game week's always good because even if he gets 2 points against City, and a goal or two in another game, he could easily be sitting there on a big score. So yeah, Calvert-Lewin's got the potential for a double game week in the coming weeks. I think I've seen on Ben Crellin's Twitter. So that's another sort of tick in his box, isn't it, for the double game week factor. Moving on, shall I move on to some more questions now?
Yeah, go for it.
So there's one from Say Less FP, which says keep or sell Bamford. We've kind of covered that. It does definitely depend on so many things. For you, it kind of makes sense to sell because you haven't got as many fires as myself. I'm currently carrying Vardy, so it makes no sense for me to prioritise Bamford out over the likes of Vardy because Vardy costs much more money and he's out injured. So it depends. I don't think what I would say overall though, as a generic point, is don't write Bamford off if he's going to keep playing in that lead side, and I do think they will return to their sort of creating a lot of chances style sooner rather than later. Then he could be back in the points. So yeah, it could be a case of being patient with him. But yeah, if you've got a perfect team, nothing else to change, 2 free transfers better than a hole in your pocket, money in the bank, and you want to go Bamford to Kane, Bamford to Calvert-Lewin, then that could be a good move. So this is about Chelsea now, which is an interesting one. And I want to talk, this is not a question come through on Twitter, but a question from my mate Jordan Casey, actually. Yeah, we'll do that now. He listens every week. He's been sending in questions via Twitter. He messaged me last night saying that we're ignoring his questions, but he's got he's locked down he's got a private Twitter profile. So when I let him know that, he was like, oh yeah, good point. So that made me laugh. So he was just generally wanting to talk about Arsenal. They're interesting. I tend not to go for their assets too often. I did on my free hit. But yeah, have you got any opinions or strong thoughts on the Arsenal boys at the minute?
So I really like Smith Rowe at 4.5 million. The only
Yeah,
concern is that they've just got is it Martin Odegaard from Madrid
yeah,
on loan? I've probably butchered the pronunciation there, but whether or not he eats into his minutes, because Smith Rowe before that appeared to be nailed at number 10. He's so
yeah,
creative and just a fantastic bargain for FPL. The other main one I would say is Saka. I think he's 5.5 or sub
yeah.
5.5, and he's just consistently putting out decent numbers. Um,
So
uh,
good.
yeah, and for that price tag, like yeah, if you've got a spot that you're not sure about in midfield, then I would go for Saka. Um, Lacazette does seem to be pretty good in terms of his conversion rate, but yeah, he's probably a bit more money. And when you've got options like Antonio, DCL that are slightly cheaper, I probably wouldn't go for Lacazette myself.
Yeah, their fixtures are a bit poor in the next three. Man United home, Wolves away, Villa away. Might not be too. They're fairly tricky. Then it's Leeds home, which who knows how Leeds can blow you away or they can get pummeled, can't they? And then
Mm.
it's City home. So fixtures wise, they're not the best for Arsenal. However, yeah, if we're going to just discuss their assets as a whole, Arsenal have turned a massive corner since that Chelsea game. They looked diabolical before then, couldn't score goals, weren't even keeping clean sheets. They brought in some of the youngsters. I think that was possibly, could be wrong, could be Smith Rowe's first game. Going to try and check that whilst I talk. Let me just check that now. So yeah, no, his first game was 64 minutes against Chelsea. Got an assist that game. So yeah, Smith Rowe came in and made a whole difference. I think they changed formation, didn't they, and went to a 4 at the back instead of 3 centre backs and wing backs, which then freed up Kieran Tierney to play as an actual left back and therefore get forward. He was missing again yesterday. He's kind of an injury. He missed out on the free hit week as well. So be careful with Tierney because he can miss out through being maybe a little bit injury prone, maybe not the right word, but he's definitely got an issue at the minute. Then, like you said, I don't want to just repeat yourself, but I do. So I'll echo what you said on Lacazette. For me, there's cheaper options who are better, and also the likes of Calvert-Lewin and Kane sort of thing. So yeah, I would personally avoid Laka, who can go off the boil. He is playing well at the minute though, so he's one of those that if you've got him, especially after last night, you probably want to keep. But yeah, the two gems for me are Saka at 5. Let's just say 5.5ish, and Smith Rowe at 4.5. The fact that Smith Rowe could miss out on game time is a real shame now. And we do need strong benches in COVID time, so maybe a little warning there. Wait to see how that plays out. Maybe if they can both play, that could be great for FPL. But yeah, I do worry about him now. So yeah, I think the choice is Saka. He gets the returns. He's really cheap. And like that tweet I put out recently, which was like, it started off as a joke tweet, but I'm not even joking anymore. It had Smith Rowe in it, Saka, Gundogan, Soychek, and I think Lookman. All of those are like 5.3 or under, and then you've got 5.7 and under, and then you've got like Rafinha, who got a 13 pointer last night, who's about 5.3. So there's literally, I don't remember a time when there's this many sub 6 million midfielders who you could legitimately actually pick, and they're not like random punts or they are good picks. I don't know, have I missed any? I think I've covered off all of them.
No, I think you've covered them all. I was going to say, like, I know that what you're doing most weeks is you're picking between Souček and Lookman as your fourth, but you get into the point now where some of these guys you can start every week without fear.
Yeah.
Souček for me, one of my mates was he's benched Souček this week, unfortunately. But the thing that I liked about Souček this week is that Palace give up a lot of headed chances. And so I was speaking to him at post deadline. I didn't give him anything before that, but about the fact that I liked Souček this week. But yeah, he's getting all sorts of goals. You can start him every week. Rafinha looks incredible. You can start him every week. Lookman, I've got Lookman. I really like him. But I guess in respect to the Arsenal guys, it's no to Laka and a yes to Saka. Is that about right?
Yes, that's nice. I like that. Lovely. We'll finish that question there because that's perfect. So this one's, I was about to do this one. So this one's from Imran Fariz. Sorry for butchering your name. I know you listen every week, so yeah, apologies for that. So he's basically said it's a question that I'm noticing on a lot of people's lips is could we see the manager bounce at Chelsea, Werner, Pulisic, Ziyech back on the radar? Question mark. I'll just do a little bit on this and then I'll let you jump in. So for me, it's definitely wait and see. We don't know what sort of formation he'll play, what sort of players he'll favour. Someone like Mount was nailed on under Frank. Will he be nailed on under? Again, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, so I'm not even going to try. Under the new manager, we just don't know. So there's a lot of unanswered things at the minute. So yeah, definitely tonight is a good, or whenever they play this game week, is a good time to check out how they play. But even then, it's only one game. Is Werner going to bounce back to some sort of? Is his confidence going to be boosted massively? Potentially. He looked like a really good signing at the start, and then he's just gone off the boil, hasn't he? So yeah, they definitely are in the back of my mind, Chelsea assets. But for me, I think there's just so much choice out there at the minute, and I do think as a manager who likes to rotate, and do you really want to be taking a punt on a sort of 8 million Chelsea midfielder when there's all those cheaper ones? There's Sterling back to form. There's Salah and Bruno who are consistent, etc., etc. And then up front, do you really want to be gambling on Werner when there's Kane, DCL, Antonio, Watkins? I don't know. I'm definitely going to wait and see on Chelsea for at least 2 more weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Reece James, and I've benched him this week because he played the full cup game at the weekend, and from what I've seen, rather than him sort of having an operation on his knee, he's just managing it. So for me, that kind of screams out that he can't play 2 games in quick succession. I could be wrong. He could play tonight. I've seen things on Twitter about I think it's Tuchel, Thomas Tuchel. Um, he's, I think that's it. He will be playing with three centre backs and two wing backs, and so
Yeah, I've seen it.
Reece James might even start, but that's why I'm going to wait and see. I was looking to sell him under Lampard, but now I'm going to hold him and see what happens. So I guess it's a case of if you've got Chelsea assets, hold. But if you haven't, don't buy. Wait and see.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Um, so Mariner FI, sorry. Oh god, I can't read. What's your plans for navigating the blanks/doubles in the next few weeks? So do you want to take this one, or do you want me to, mate?
No, I'm quite happy to. So I'm I was I was up until this double. I was playing about 6 weeks in advance. I was looking at players that would probably have a double in 19, and I was getting them in to avoid taking any hits closer to the deadline. That's kind of cut me off a little bit, I think, because I've been avoiding players that had short-term good fixtures. So what I'm doing now is I'm playing a bit more like every 3 weeks. Um,
Mm.
I'm not thinking about the doubles until they become fully announced what the fixtures are. I'm just looking at the fixtures over the next two or three. And then I've still got the wild card in my back pocket, so I can adapt to it like that. In regard to the massive blank, I'm just going to wait and see a bit closer to the time for that one.
Yeah, same.
I wouldn't. I think you'll get punished if you try and plan too far in advance in this season because we just don't know
Yeah,
what's going to happen.
yeah, exactly. And also, yeah, GW29 is too far away to be making too many plans for that. There's a wild card to be played potentially before then. And yeah, so week 29 is looking likely to be a big blank. How big, we're not sure yet. Rearranged fixtures can be added in there. Depends on who goes out of the FA Cup. If there's a few upsets, then that makes that week a bit easier to navigate, etc. And week 26 looks like being a big double. So yeah, in an ideal world, I'll be targeting that big double and using my bench boost for that potentially. In the smaller doubles, look to use my triple captainship. And there's no better team at the minute than Man City, I guess. So yeah, I could see myself triple captaining a Man City asset when they get there, sort of when there's a mini-ish double game week with them involved. But yeah, kind of like you, I'm taking it a bit more short term and going from there. For me, I've got the luxury of I haven't got three City players yet anyway. So I'll probably, like I said, I think I might be bringing in Kane this week. And then next week I can look at maybe bringing in my third City player. And they're a team who are going to double anyway. So it kind of ticks the box of targeting City, even if they don't have a double. But as they do, it makes sense. So yeah, I don't think we can overplan or get too intricate right now. So yeah, next question. So this is from FPL at Rich. Meteoric rise FPL content creator. Congrats. So he's congratulating you there. His question is, for those hovering around the 1 mil rank, what sort of higher risk moves would now be viable to climb in the second half? Playing safe seems even harder this year with many more involved managers, so won't give rises. So I'll let you jump in there because you're ranked similar to the 1 million mark, so you might be better to answer. But what I will say is if I was ranked there, I wouldn't be playing any differently. I'd still be trying to make good decisions. I would still be playing it. I'd still be trying to pick those players that I think are going to get the most FPL points. It's as simple as that. I wouldn't be taking a unnecessary risk. For example, I don't know, like ignoring Gundogan and trying to get someone random in there that, like a Pedro Neto that no one's got at the minute just because, there's a hope that he might bang. I wouldn't be playing it like that. Just be playing my normal game. And I've noticed over the years that, you think like, oh, this is, I need differential, I need this, but you don't. If you get a good solid team, solid 11 players, get your captaincy right and stuff like that, you can just climb the ranks. Like you've had a big rise over the last couple of weeks. I don't think you've done it with, differentials. As such, you just managed to build yourself a really good team over the last couple of weeks, and they've then performed for you.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty much it. Yeah, I was going to
yeah.
say, I haven't really got that Maverick style anyway. The risky picks because that makes me feel worse if they don't pay off. Um,
Mm.
a lot of the time, the obvious pick is probably the obvious pick for a reason. And you look at Gundogan as an example this week. I was torn between Son and Gundogan all week, and I went with Gundogan because I didn't want to overthink it. I just thought, look, he's in
You
form. He's
nearly
playing
went.
for the best team in the league. I nearly went Foden, didn't I?
You did. You did.
And obviously, I'm glad I didn't. Foden obviously had a good game, but there was no output. So I just stopped overthinking it.
Yeah,
I got the transfer done. And I think Twitter can be quite polarizing sometimes. You'll see everyone's, oh, I'm jumping on the Gundogan bandwagon, and you think, oh, well, maybe I'll play at left field by going for somebody
yeah.
else. The chances are everyone's doing it because he's got the best chance of doing well. So I would still, just play your own game. Don't be too risky because you might risk falling down the pecking order. Um, and yeah, it'll come eventually.
And it's about picking your moments as well. Like I remember early on in the season, like I had a bad start. So in between sort of game week 1 and game week 6, I was like ranked 1.4, 1.5 million. But I was, because I missed out on players like Calvert-Lewin, who was smashing it at the time, Rodriguez smashing it at the time, Kane and Son having mentally high scores at like away at Man United and away at Southampton, things like that. But I still wanted those players. So Calvert-Lewin, I got in fairly early doors. I missed some of his big hauls, and a lot of people had him by then. So it was kind of boring to do it, and it didn't excite me that much doing it. But I wanted him in, and he did really well for me when I had him. So if I'd have gone left field, like I think I was considering someone like Mopay at the time, but he didn't do as well in that time period. So I think it's about picking your moments. Whereas in other times, I think in weeks, so maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, it's not a greatest example because it didn't pay off handsomely. But a lot of people were getting in Son at the sort of 9.5 million midfielder bracket, but I went down the Rashford route. So that was kind of an opportunity where I felt like I didn't take a risk on purpose, and I didn't get a differential on purpose, but I felt like that was the play to make because of Man United's fixtures and the fact they had a double. And I believe Rashford was back on better form following his brace away at Sheffield United. Like I say, it didn't work out handsomely. He did get a couple of goals. Son also chipped in with some points for Spurs. So over the course of that sort of time period, I'm not even sure if it did work out. Maybe Son was the better play. But my point being is there is an opportunity where you can maybe take what would be classified as a risk. Not that I did it on purpose to be a risk. I just felt like that was a better player. Whereas this week, like you said, Gundogan was the obvious option, but it's the option I actually wanted as well. So, if everyone else does that move as well, then good luck to them. And if no one else did it, also good luck to them. Don't be swayed by the managers. Just play your own game and get in. If that asset is the best player to get in, whether no one's doing it or everyone's doing it, do it regardless. Thanks everyone for the questions, by the way. I should jump in and say that there's loads this week. I think everyone wants to speak to Rich, popular guy. Sorry if I missed any out. It's just mainly due to time. They're all all very good questions, and some we've kind of covered off. I've just seen a question from I'm going to butcher their names again, Ewan White, about Arsenal assets, and some other things we've already covered off. So I won't cover anything off we've already touched upon. So this is another question. Is it still worth doing something like Stones to Cancelo, or is it too hard to predict who will be rested in the City defence in the next 2 game weeks? It was Stones to Diaz. Stones to Cancelo. So that's a tricky one. I do believe in Cancelo being a better asset for City. Obviously, Stones has got that brace, and Stones is a good asset. Stones is a little bit cheaper, it should be noted, about 0.7, 0.8 less. So that's handy, that having that money in the bank. But in terms of who's most nailed, I'd say they're both probably equal now because Laporte's coming back from injury and getting some game time now. Maybe Laporte will start the odd game. I do still think Stones is relatively nailed and you shouldn't worry about it. If he does miss the odd game, just have a strong bench. Stones is unlikely to cameo off the bench, so have a good strong bench. And then, for these COVID times, it's handy having a strong bench anyway. But Cancelo is really attacking. I like him. Possibly look at getting both if you can. If you can't, for whatever reason, then a transfer on Stones to Cancelo is a bit wasteful for me, going from a City defender to a City defender. Stones could easily pop up with another goal, I suppose. And I guess, like I said earlier, if you've got 2 free transfers and a perfect squad elsewhere with nothing else to do, then maybe it's a good play. But I don't know what you think about that, Rich.
Pretty much echo exactly what you say. We've seen Stones haul in the double and Cancelo get rested and then get a clean, and then this week we've seen Cancelo haul. So I probably wouldn't be hopping in between them because I'd feel terrible if I were to miss the other one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you say, Wes, if you've got a perfect team and you're almost at the point where you're going to burn a transfer, then maybe you do it. But other than that, I wouldn't.
Yeah, cool. So I think we've gone through loads of questions there. Like I said, everyone, thank you so much for giving us the questions. Hope that's been helpful, and I'm pretty confident we've covered everything off. If not directly, then indirectly. So that's good. We usually chat about our own teams here, Rich, for a little bit. We don't go into too much detail, but we kind of give an overview of how we're getting on. So I'll start it off with how I'm doing at the minute. So, and just how my season's going in general, a little update. So, yeah, like I said, game weeks 1 to 6 were poor. 10 green arrows in a row, got as high as around 22k, I think. And was obviously delighted with that at that stage of the season. But then I think it was 3 red arrows and a bounce, a free hit, which was really disappointing. Obviously, on a free hit week, you expect to be having a really good score and improving. And I did pick a decent team, but, Gundogan actually blanked in that one. A few other things just didn't pay off. I had Tierney, but he randomly missed out. And my bench defender was the Newcastle defender who didn't do anything either. And some people had players like Mitchell. But yeah, on to this sort of game week. I slipped down to around 200k. Now halfway through the game week, I've risen up, I should say, to, where am I? 118k overall. So again, not where I want to be coming the end of the season, but we're still only halfway through the season roughly. There's some more double game weeks to come. I'm still confident of just ploughing on. And like I said, I didn't make any rash decisions after 3 red arrows. Didn't take a -4 necessarily. I looked at my squad. I thought it's good enough. I'm happy with it. I'm happy to play both Sojcik and Lookman this week. And therefore I avoided a minus. Bought in Gundogan for Rashford. I've got about 3-4 million in the bank now. So yeah, I can do the Kane move next week for Vardy if I want very easily. Or so that's where I'm at. Players who've done well for me this week: Cancelo, Gundogan, Sojcik. Happy with them. And yeah, the Leeds guys let me down a bit with Bamford coming off in the 59th minute. So I guess we've got to kind of monitor. Bamford was for many games this season he was close to a 90-minute man most weeks. He started off the season with 61, 69. Then he played 90 minutes 9-10 games in a row. And then even then it was like 73, 83, back to 90 minutes for 5 games in a row. 59 last night. Maybe because it's a lot of games close together. I do still think he's nailed on, but he's definitely one to watch out for if he is going to start becoming a subbed player early doors and he's not on form, then it's definitely kind of a red flag that he should be moved on. And Dallas, again, Leeds are kind of strange. They do get some clean sheets. They've got 6 clean sheets so far this season. But they do concede goals. So yeah, it's a tough one with Dallas. He's got a goal threat, 3 goals, 2 assists, 6 clean sheets. Only his starting price was 4.5, so might stick by him. But like I said, I've got a bit of money in the bank. I could possibly get that extra City defender because they're just a clean sheet machine at the minute. Other than that, I've got Fernandes to come tonight, captain. Watkins, Salah, Lookman and Robertson also to play. So yeah, that's a little roundup of my team. Do you want to do yours, Rich, and then I'll jump on and do a bit for John as well?
Sure. So I've got Martinez in goal tonight. The City boys, I've got Stones and Cancelo. Both did well last night. My third defender this week was Dallas. We don't need to go into that anymore. That was disappointing, and he even had a goal ruled out because it was rightfully ruled out, by the way, for handball. But he was playing in midfield, which is sometimes what happens with Dallas. So
yeah, that's nice.
I like him as an asset. It's just I want to see how Leeds get on the next few weeks. Midfield, Gundogan's got me a return on the first week I bring him in, which is pleasing. I've got Salah tomorrow, Bruno captain tonight, Grealish as well I've got tonight, and then up front it's Antonio's already got me an assist and numerous missed chances, which is unlucky. But I think he's an easy hold for me at the moment. Watkins, sure, like I mentioned, with his endless opportunities and just being incredibly unlucky all season. And then Bamford, like you said, he got hooked early and didn't get to do anything. But in terms of my team is going all right this week, 45. I'm up to 750k midweek, but I don't like checking it, so I'm not going to look at it too much. But yeah, I was 84k after week 1. Then I've spent the rest of the season in between 1.8 and 2 million up until 18, and now I'm back inside the top million. So
I just want to hammer home that's both of our stories in terms of, like, for me after game week 6 I was ranked at 1.5 like I've said, and I went on this big run, which is easy at that stage of the season, but you've proven that even at this stage of the season where you're ranked like in a poor position where you didn't want to be, 2-3 good game weeks and you're right back up there, and big jumps can be made at those ranks. So I kind of want to hammer it home that my advice for those guys who were in your position 2 or 3 weeks ago, you can go on a run like Rich has done, and Richard's run's not even done yet. He can go push on further and be much higher up the ranks, in the next few weeks as well. So just keep playing it in the sensible way, and it will happen. But yeah, I don't know if I actually said how many points I got this week. I've got 50 points, so fairly similar to you. John has actually got a very, very similar team to yourself. There's only 2 different players. So he's got Martinez, Stones, Cancelo, Dallas, Gundogan, Grealish and Fernandes captain. He's got Rashford, where you've got Salah, and he's got Kane, where you've got Watkins, and he's also got obviously Bamford and Antonio up top. So he's got a very similar team to you. He left Souček on the bench this week, which was a bit of a wounder, but equally looking at his team, he's got such a strong front 11 who, he had to bench Souček in that scenario, because you're not going to bench Kane, Antonio or Bamford realistically. Maybe you will this week. I'll touch upon that for my team in a second actually. And in midfield, you're not going to bench Grealish, Fernandes or Rashford when Rashford's announced fit and he's got Sheffield United at home, or Gundogan, who scored well anyway. So I don't think John can be too... I don't think he'll be kicking himself too much about that one. It was the right decision, especially as, Souček hadn't been taking too many shots in the last few games. And yeah, there was just no way of him squeezing him in. And in these sort of, like I said, these COVID times where players can miss out, it is good to have that good first sub. And who knows, if one of his forward players miss out randomly, then he'll get him off the bench, which will be nice for John. I was going to make a point about something, wasn't I? But I forgot now. What was I going to say? Don't know. Yeah, it's completely gone. So yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else you want to say before I wrap up the pod?
No, just a big thanks for having me on. I need to get myself some tech, and hopefully I can guest more frequently if you boys will have me on. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thanks to everyone for giving us the questions to answer, and for us to get some content into the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, cheers, legend. Thanks for coming on, especially at such short notice, stepping in for John. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Could chat FPL with you for much longer, but we'll wrap it up now. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Give us a rating on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Twitter, retweet us, share it with your friends on WhatsApp. Keep helping us grow. The numbers are growing really well, actually. So we're really happy with how it's going. So thanks for that. Hope everyone's enjoying it. We do get a lot of positive feedback from people, DMing me or WhatsApping me. So that's really nice to hear. It definitely helps to motivate us to continue genuinely, because with these things, if you don't hear back from anyone, you don't really know how it's going down. So to hear people are doing it just motivates us to carry on and keep producing good stuff. And yeah, just a final shout out for Fanslide. Go and download their app. Like I said earlier, it's completely free to play, completely complimentary to FPL. There's always money up for grabs on various different games, so you can always play. You can sit there, watch a game. And the good thing is about Fanslide compared to, say, FPL, you set your team before the FPL deadline and then it's out of your hands. You can't control it. Whereas, there's so many games you watch, you might have captained, in FPL. I'm going off a bit of a tangent now, but in FPL, you might have captained, say, when Salah was at home to, say, Burnley or, a West Brom, and then all of a sudden you watch the game and you realise that team is just camping in and goals just don't look like they're going to be flowing. Liverpool aren't quite at their game or whatever it is. At those moments on Fanslide, you can actually switch. You can slide in defenders instead and get some clean sheet points. You can actually watch the game, see it unravel and predict it from there. So it's a really fun game. Play it against your mates and win some cash for free. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and cheers Rich for coming on.
No worries. Cheers guys.